Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist TJ Del Santo alongside meteorologist Katie McNeil for the latest edition of Beyond the Forecast. Exciting. It's our third edition, right? I think this is our third edition on this. Today, we're talking about Groundhog Day. It was on February 2nd last week, and we're going to take you out to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, which is really exciting. We're going to learn all about the experience out there, and we'll talk about Phil's prediction as well.
And we'll be taking a little bit more of a scientific approach after the
Come on,
groundhog's approval.
Phil's a scientist.
And we'll also be answering some viewer questions, talking about whether or not we'll actually be seeing an early spring this year.
All right, first, you may know him as Rhode Island's social meteorologist. He runs the Facebook groups, Weather and RI, and the Facebook page as well. Brian Chevalier, he is just back from Western Pennsylvania, went out to Punxsutawney. It's actually his fourth time out there, so I thought that's kind of cool. I see
Four more times than I've been. I've never been.
It might be on my bucket list. It's not actually in the bucket list yet, or in the bucket yet, but you know, maybe someday. Yeah, it's his fourth time out there to make that journey out into Pennsylvania. I asked him what it's like out there and why he actually goes.
In the wintertime, it's not quite, there's not quite as many things to do. And one thing that attracts me to going to see Punxsutawney Phil is that there's really not that many people around here doing that. So whenever I'm telling somebody, oh, I'm going to see the groundhog, it always seems to generate a reaction. Usually it's a you're crazy reaction. Why would you do that? Well, I enjoy it. So the event actually takes place. It's called Gobbler's Knob, and it's up on a hill. It's not really near anything. It's about 1.5 miles, 2 miles outside, if you want to call it downtown Punxsutawney. But there's a main street and some taller buildings there. The Gobbler's Knob is, a little bit outside, the higher population area. So what they do, they have a bunch of school buses that kind of shuttle you in. And there's a Walmart with a big parking lot, and there's some other areas in the city where you can basically park, and you pay $5 for the bus ticket, which is essentially your entry into Groundhog Day. It's a free event. People start lining up at the Walmart around 2 a.m. and then the first buses get going around 3 a.m. and they'll run nonstop until the end of the event. Everybody leaves at the same time, and so getting back into town is the really tough part.
Happy Groundhog Day! Describe the atmosphere there.
It's very unique. Part of what's unique about it is the timing of it. It's the whole event takes place from like 2:33 in the morning until 7:30 in the morning is when it's over. So when I get there, I'm on one of those first buses because I enjoy the event. I traveled a long way. I don't want to miss out. On the stage, they have live music. They have entertainment. There's a talent show. It's basically 10 minutes from the time where all the guys in the hats, the inner circle, are walking down the hill and getting up on stage. They bring out Phil and hold him up, and then he, they read the scroll. It's about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes is the whole ceremony, so to speak. And it always lives up to the hype. And there's people there that are rooting for 6 more weeks of winter, but they're far outnumbered by people rooting for early spring by like a lot.
But what this weather did not provide is a shadow or reason to hide. Glad tidings on this Groundhog Day. An early spring is on the way.
But he doesn't really have the best track record in the world.
Statistically speaking, if you look at the data, it does suggest that it's almost as good as a coin flip in terms of accuracy. What I'll say to that is, Phil's prediction is 100% accurate, whereas the person translating groundhogese from Phil to determine which scroll he's grabbing has groundhogese is a difficult language to learn from what I understand. I'm not fluent in it. But when the prediction turns out to be wrong, it's on the president of the inner circle who's actually translating and speaking with.
Oh, I see. All right, so we'll blame it on him. Phil's 100% accurate.
So Phil is 100% accurate all the time. Something I never knew.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's based on, he was talking about the handler has more of an impact than the actual groundhog.
All right.
But a lot of people trust Phil, so.
A lot of people do. We actually have Phil's report card.
Okay.
I guess maybe it's the handler's report card. Here's what he's done for the last 10 years or so. And he's gotten a couple of A's in there. What's that, 2016, he got an A+. He did very well.
Yep.
From the past few years, he's gotten C's and B's. I mean, it's okay. I think a more scientific approach is probably the better way to go than
Yes.
just looking at what a groundhog says or even their handler says.
But any extra support is valuable, I feel like.
Yeah, sure. It's just like computer models. We use them as tools. We'll take into account what Phil
Yeah,
says.
absolutely.
I'm sure he wants to get out of this little den and go out foraging for food. Although, I don't know if you saw all the food that he gets. He has like sweet potatoes and everything
Yeah, I'm
out
sure
there.
he's pretty well fed. He probably has a better diet than I do, to be honest.
Than most groundhogs,
Than
I'm
most
sure,
groundhogs,
too.
especially, yeah.
All right, so that's his report card. Over the last 10 years, he got a couple of A's in there. I mean, I think the accuracy rating is like 38% or something like
Yeah.
that. It's not really 100%. All right, so here's what we're expecting for the next 14 days or so. We are expecting below normal temperatures, which I suppose that's good news for those who want a little bit more winter.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, based on what we've seen, it looks like this dry pattern isn't going to last for the rest of the month. And with that, if we're seeing these below normal temperatures, definitely could lead way to some more snowfall before the end of February.
I think so, which, I know the people who rooting for more winter certainly would be happy about. This is information from the Climate Prediction Center, by the way. They're looking at computer models, much more of a scientific approach. I mean, they're not 100% correct all the time. Let's face it. I mean, neither are we. There's so many weather variables that go into making a weather forecast. But, I feel a little bit more confident with this, that we're actually
Yes.
going to be seeing some
I
colder
would say
temperatures,
so.
at least for the next couple of weeks. I feel pretty good about that. Now, this is jumping ahead right into the end of March, and we're still looking at some below normal temperatures. So, so we could be looking at maybe some snowstorms, perhaps right into the end of the month. So some good news there. The jet stream really controls all this.
Yes.
El Nino is in control
That's been
right now.
the big term that we've been using a lot so far this winter, which really kind of controls these oscillations, I feel like, in temperature changes and weather patterns, things like that.
All those rainstorms that we had, December and January, those are all El Nino driven. And we're not seeing the impacts, so we haven't been seeing the impacts lately. In fact, the Pacific Coast, they've been seeing the drenching rains as of late.
Yep.
We're going to be seeing, if you get a storm on one side of the country, it has to come out on the other side of the country. And, if everything is right, all the conditions are met, cold air around, the storm comes up a little closer to us, we definitely could be looking at some snowstorms. So as long as we've got that El Nino weather pattern, I feel pretty confident that we're going to be seeing at least chances for some snow. I'm hoping no more rain, because we do not need any
absolutely.
more.
We've had a surplus. I mean, really since this past summer, we've had a surplus. It
Since
hasn't ended.
Since last April.
Yeah,
Remember
it's
we were
been-
talking about droughts last April, with
yes.
with the wildfires, and all of a sudden the flip switched. and-
Everything changed, and it's been kind of right on through January. This is the first really longer stretch I can remember, at least in the past month and a half, where we haven't seen really any rainfall.
Yeah, we
Which
definitely.
has seemed unusual compared
It's-
to the pattern we've had.
It's been kind of nice, and it was nice to get the sunshine back
Yes,
as well.
absolutely.
All right, here's the long-term trend. This is a 90-day forecast. Now, Phil may be onto something, because look at this. This is right through April, and it shows above normal temperatures. So you have to kind of include March in there, I suppose, that we may be looking at above normal temperatures for March and April. So maybe we will be getting
we'll
an
see a
early
little bit
spring.
of a taste of spring. But I think something we've talked about too is above normal. deviates, if the average is, say, in the low 40s, above normal may not be much far of a departure from that. I
No.
think people assume when we say that it's going to be way warmer.
They see the oranges on the map, like, ooh, 80s, 90s. No, it's not.
No, it's-
I mean, it's not impossible in April to get a temperature
Yes.
in the 80s or 90s, but that just means above average. And by the
Mm-hmm.
way, that means confidence levels. It's not actually going to be above normal. It's the confidence levels that will have above normal temperatures for really the northern tier states. And that's in a typical El Nino weather pattern. You get winds off of the Pacific Ocean, whether it be the northern United States, southern United States, will be above normal. The southern United States typically would be below normal in temperature. So that's a typical El Nino weather pattern. And those of you who look forward, and a lot of people are always like, well, is it what happens right now? Will it impact the summer? El Nino may be going away during the summertime, and it may go to what we call neutral. So
kind
we'll
of that
see.
transition period.
Yeah, and maybe La Nina returning by next fall. So that's something to
Yeah,
watch for.
which will
down
be
the road.
interesting for hurricane season, especially to see kind of how that pattern shifts.
Definitely will. So, all right. So that's kind of what we're expecting. Maybe Phil's on to something there with maybe an early spring. I hope so. I love spring. I love warmer weather.
And we've definitely had a fair amount of cold days in the past couple weeks. Despite all the rain, we've had some very cold temperatures thrown in there as well.
And that's a good point because February is actually that's when we see some of the most extreme cold that we've ever had. It's the first couple of weeks of February. That's when we've had temperatures 14, 23. I think even down to 28 degrees below zero in some parts of Rhode Island in our history. I don't see any cold outbreaks like that though this February.
Yeah, I feel like with that El Nino pattern, might be staying away from the sub-zero
Less of a
temperatures.
chance.
Less of a chance for that.
All right, so we've got a bunch of questions, right?
Yes, we do.
All right, so question number one. This is from Shauna from East Providence. Do you think we'll have at least one big snowstorm, or did El Nino ruin our chances? I think El Nino is helping our chances, if anything.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I feel like this pattern is very active. So what we've kind of been saying the whole winter is all it will take is the right conditions to be in place for one of these storms that has been happening every few days, it seems, for the conditions to line up and for us to get a decent amount of snowfall.
Yeah, El Nino storms typically bring a lot of moisture, so, we just need a little cold air around. So I think, keep your fingers crossed that everything lines up, all the stars align perfectly, and we'll be okay.
Yeah, I think our chances are still high for at least one big snowstorm.
Yeah, one or
before the
two.
end of
I
the
think,
year.
as you saw, we're looking at those good chances of colder than normal temperatures through the end of the month. So we probably got at least 2 or 3 more chances
Yeah.
of maybe seeing a snowstorm. All right. Is there a concern for severe weather during the spring in Rhode Island? That's a question from Robert from Warwick.
It's a good question.
It really is. Typically, our severe weather season is in the summertime. That's when we see those big thunderstorms, better chances for tornadoes. Sometimes it creeps into the fall. Sometimes we get severe weather in the summertime, but I don't really know if I have a feeling about it.
Yeah, I would say on average, not typically. I wouldn't say it's a concern, but it's not to say we couldn't, especially with the very active pattern we've been in, if conditions line up just like we've seen into the fall. But I think the big thing is the ocean temperatures in the fall are a lot warmer, which is why sometimes we see a little bit
Exactly.
more of that, whereas in the spring,
It's usually some of the colder temperatures. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why part of the reason why we don't see as many severe weather days in the spring. Typically,
certainly
we
in
get
other
the
parts
rain.
of the country, though, it's one of the most active times.
Absolutely, in the Tornado Alley, down in the Deep South as well. All right, question number 3. Will we have any chances of a plowable snow in February, and when would the possible time frame part of February could it be? That's from Eric in Taunton. I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. We kind of talked about it with question number 1. I think we definitely could be seeing some plowable snowstorms, especially if you live away from the coastline. Typical snowstorms here in Rhode Island.
I know we've kind of seen that sweet spot in northwestern Rhode Island has seen more snow than certainly down at the coast. Haven't seen very much plowable snow totals at all down there. So.
No, for the past couple of years,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
What part of February? I mean, right through the rest of February, I would say. Any chances of seeing a plowable snow. And then things might start changing once we get into March. But sometimes
Yes.
you can get a good snowstorm in March
Yeah.
even. It can
Yeah,
happen.
I've seen it happen in my lifetime, and I know you certainly have as well. We were talking about, the anniversary of the blizzard of '78, which I think spanned from the 6th to the 7th, right? It was yesterday.
Yeah, even a little bit of
today.
snow on the 8th, but mainly the 6th and 7th, yeah.
So I would say certainly, as we've been talking about, we could definitely see maybe not the blizzard of '78, but certainly plowable snowfall is possible by the end of the month.
All right, it's kind of not really related to weather patterns, but could you, well, sort of, I guess. Could you explain the front lines with the blue triangles and the red semicircles? So a blue line that we have on our weather maps, I should have made a map to explain, with the blue triangles, that is a cold front, it's the leading edge of cold air, and much the same thing with a warm front too. Warm fronts, the red ones with the red semicircles, right?
Semicircles, yep.
And
Yeah.
they bring in the warmer air. And usually you find the precipitation with those in front of those cold fronts. So cold front brings in the cold air, warm air brings in the warm air.
And I feel like we kind of use those, like those are visual tools to help us and viewers understand kind of what's going on with the weather patterns.
Yeah, if you can find a front on a weather map, you can really get a good idea of where the precipitation is going to be, where the warm air is, where the cold air is. So it's important to know where the fronts are on the weather map. It's something that we kind of learn in Weather 101.
Yes, yeah, from day one, that's one of the bigger tools that we're taught.
Analyzing a front. All right, anything else? I think we're good, right?
I think we're good. Yeah, I mean, I think the takeaways are that we certainly could see some snow before the end of the month here. So anyone that likes snow, enjoys seeing snow, definitely are some chances in the next couple weeks.
All right. And maybe spring will get here a little bit earlier. Spring officially is like the end of March, like 20. I
Yeah.
haven't looked off the top of my
I
head.
think
March
it's
21st.
the 19th this year.
Is it even that early this year?
Yeah, it's a little bit earlier,
It's
I
usually
believe.
that time frame of March. So maybe it'll be a little bit early for the year. All right, so that's it for this edition of Beyond the Forecast. We try to do these every first Wednesday of the month, and the next one. This is going to be a hot topic. I can sense it in the month of March. Daylight saving time.
Yes.
Love it, hate it. Whether or not you like it or not, we have to deal with it, right?
Yes.
We got to set those spring ahead, right? March ahead.
Yep.
That's what we're going to be doing. So that's going to be the topic for our next Beyond the Forecast. So if you've got questions about that, by all means, start submitting them into our Weather Center.
All right, awesome. Thank you, TJ.
Great to have you here.
It's my first Beyond the Forecast. Very exciting.
It really was. You did a great job, and we look forward to doing it next time. I think the next time I'm talking about it on Beyond the Forecast, we're talking about solar eclipses from the month of April.
Ooh, that'll be
really
exciting.
fun. All right. Thank you for watching, and we hope you have a great day.